follow up and try to get you those answers. Finally, we're going to be recording this summit so that we can go back to it and you can go back and watch certain sessions on demand. So just be aware that this is being recorded. Next slide. So I'd like to just take a minute to give a brief overview of the agenda for today. It's displayed on your screen, but it was also emailed out to all participants with the reminder yesterday. So this morning, we are going to be hearing more about the International Trade Administration and the Market Development Cooperator Program from Amanda Lawrence and Madeline Bugel. We're also fortunate to have Acting Assistant Secretary Ann Driscoll with us to provide some keynote remarks later this morning. Next slide. And then later on this morning, we'll be hearing from industry executives about what advanced manufacturing means to them. And then we'll wrap up the day with market briefings from ITA experts. Tomorrow's agenda will be more interactive, and it's going to include a survey session. So make sure that you tune back in tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern to participate in that. So thank you very much for your participation in today's event. I'd now like to introduce our first speaker, Amanda Lawrence. She is International Trade Specialist in the Department of Commerce's International Trade Administration, the ITA. NEMA has been working very closely with her through the Market Development Cooperator Program, and I'm very excited to have her on the summit agenda today to tell us more. So Amanda, over to you.
Great, thank you, Patrick. Good morning, everyone. It's my pleasure to be with you all today. My name, as Patrick said, is Amanda Lawrence, and I'm an Advanced Manufacturing Trade Specialist at the International Trade Administration, and I'm the Federal Team Leader for NEMA's Market Development Cooperator Program Award. On behalf of the International Trade Administration, I want to welcome you all to this Advanced Manufacturing Summit. The International Trade Administration is excited to be partnering with NEMA, not only to host this summit, but more broadly, to support U.S. leadership in international standards development and increase U.S. exports in advanced manufacturing systems. Before today's program gets started, I wanted to take a moment to provide an overview of the work we do at the International Trade Administration and talk about the valuable partnership we have with NEMA through the Market Development Cooperator Program. As Patrick mentioned, the International Trade Administration is a bureau within the U.S. Department of Commerce. It's our job to support the growth of U.S. manufacturers and connect them with opportunities in foreign markets. We engage with U.S. industry, foreign governments, and international bodies to identify and remove barriers to exports. And we work to ensure U.S. businesses compete on a level playing field internationally. We have many tools to achieve our goals of promoting trade and investment in international markets. We work with U.S. businesses and startups to find new markets, understand regulations, and address competitiveness issues. We advocate for U.S. businesses doing business abroad, and we engage with industry through tools like our industry advisory committees, where U.S. companies provide input to guide us on trade policy. The International Trade Administration has a network of commercial specialists in over 70 countries worldwide, as well as 100 sites across the United States. These experts in trade promotion offer counseling, matchmaking, and many other services to assist U.S. exporters as they enter foreign markets. You'll be hearing from my colleagues in Mexico, Turkey, Indonesia, and India later today, and I hope you'll engage with us to help expand your businesses overseas. In Washington, D.C., where I'm located, the industry, trade, and economic experts in my business unit produce in-depth trade analysis and market intelligence to develop strategies that define the future of international trade and investment and export promotion. Our goal is to drive policy solutions that will promote U.S. manufacturing and foster long-term growth in this critical sector. Partnership with U.S. industry is key for us at the International Trade Administration to meet our mission. My office collaborates with U.S. industry to help manufacturers such as yourselves identify and capitalize on global business opportunities. In close working relationship with U.S. companies, industry associations like NEMA, and other manufacturing stakeholders, We develop strategies, policies, and programs to position U.S. manufacturers at the forefront of international competitiveness. One of the most successful partnership programs we have is the Market Development Cooperator Program, or MDCP, which is what brings us together today. MDCP awards for industry-led export development projects through financial and technical assistance from the International Trade Administration. Each year, the International Trade Administration selects approximately 5 to 9 partners to receive MDCP awards of up to $300,000. These awards fund export development projects that last 3 to 5 years. And NEMA, as we all know now, has been awarded an MDCP grant in October, and I'm very excited to be working with them on this project. The MDCP is the U.S. government's most successful export assistance program. On average, MDC projects generate $334 in American exports for every $1 awarded. In an average year, MDC projects create or sustain more than 14,000 American jobs. The MDCP program began over 25 years ago and has supported $12.5 billion in exports across a variety of projects and industries. The MDCP awarded to NEMA is focused on expanding U.S. participation on technical standards related to advanced manufacturing systems. While we are just getting started with this project, the award outlines several activities that the International Trade Administration and NEMA will undertake together. First, we're working to identify new technical experts to represent U.S. industry on advanced manufacturing-related standards development committees and expand participation on U.S. technical committees. The MDCP will support training for those experts on standards-making process and the important role that standards play in ensuring a level playing field for U.S. products. The MDCP will also provide financial support to offset the cost of participation in committee, technical, and relevant trade events so that these experts can develop relationships and firsthand experience with standards committee work. In addition to standards, the MDCP also has a workstream dedicated to promoting U.S. exports of advanced manufacturing systems. We are working to organize marketing, virtual events, participation in trade shows, and in-person trade missions that will promote U.S. manufacturers in 4 target markets: Mexico, Indonesia, India, and Turkey. As part of our MDCP team, we have in-country experts who help us understand the challenges and opportunities for each of these target markets. In order to align the technical standards output with business goals, the MDCP relies on an ongoing dialogue with manufacturing experts like all of you. Through events like this summit, we hope to hear from both business leaders and technical experts so we can better understand barriers to adopting advanced manufacturing systems. Through this dialogue, together, we can begin developing a roadmap to address those challenges. Thank you for attending and participating in the Advanced Manufacturing Summit. We hope you find the next 2 days helpful in identifying opportunities to adopt advanced manufacturing systems. We also want to hear from you to learn about your interests so we can make connections that can fulfill your goals. In addition to the tools you'll hear about this afternoon during the market briefings, I encourage you to visit trade.gov to explore new markets, understand regulations, and engage with our team on export strategies. Finally, I would like to thank all of our speakers for participating in and contributing to this event. I look forward to the presentations and discussions over the next 2 days and the dialogue they will spark going forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Amanda. We really appreciate the partnership that we have with ITA on this very important MDCP award. It's now my pleasure to introduce my colleague, Senior Manager for International and Trade at NEMA, Madeline Bugel, who will provide us with a bit of additional information regarding the NEMA MDCP award.
Great, thank you, Megan, and thank you so much, Amanda, for that great introduction into the MDCP program. It's definitely been a very valuable tool thus far. We've only been into this a few months, but I've already seen such great collaboration from our federal government partners here, and also in the past, NEMA has received MDCP funding for several projects years and years ago, but we're very happy to be back involved with this program, and again are just so impressed by the level of participation that we've seen from our federal partners. And we can move on to the next slide, Megan. Great. So the overview of this, the overall goal of this program is to increase the U.S. representation and influence in international standards development, specifically for advanced manufacturing, to boost U.S. exports. We plan on doing this within this MDCP program by identifying new technical experts for the committees, for the tags, for the TCs that are developing the standards that are relevant to advanced manufacturing, providing standards development training to these experts. You know, it's always interesting coming into a world like NEMA where we're so focused on standards development and everyone really understands the process and understands the value that can come out of standards development. But it's sometimes difficult from the outside to see that, to see how the value can be added to your company, you know, especially in the long term. So that's one of the goals of this program, to provide that training to get more technical experts involved. Also support participation in international standards meetings. This sometimes can be a big ask. These are long meetings in different locations all over the world. So that is something that we are hoping to use MDCP funding to offset some of the costs for participants in these meetings. We also want to connect our companies with local industry groups, local companies, and U.S. government officials at post, especially in the 4 target countries that I'll go over later. We also plan on organizing trade missions in conjunction with this grant. We currently are looking at a trade mission for this fall that will cover Indonesia, Japan, and Singapore. We're still in the planning phases of that, but we will have information out on that in the near future and are very excited about the opportunities that that will present to our member companies to, you know, meet with more local companies, the local trade associations, the U.S. government officials on the ground, and participate in some trade events in, I believe, Singapore and Japan is what we're planning. And so to go back to the overall goal of this program, you know, why are we focusing on advanced manufacturing? Why are we so focused on boosting the exports, the U.S. exports for advanced manufacturing products? And the reason for that is because there has been such a focus on, especially in the trade space, on, you know, this more nationalistic approach on reshoring, right-shoring. You know, a lot of countries, you see it in the US, you see it in Europe, you're seeing it all over the world, want to make sure that the products that they're using, building, are made in the country themselves. And, you know, being a trade policy person, that doesn't always make me excited to hear just on a trade policy side, but that is a trend that we are seeing. And so our thinking there is, if there is going to be a lot of push for more domestic manufacturing all over the world, in different countries all over the world, then we should have a hand in the standards that are going to be used to drive the innovation for the products that are used to build out manufacturing bases in all of these countries. You know, there's so much more focus on innovating and really winnowing down the manufacturing process to improve resiliency, to get rid of waste in those processes. And so we want to make sure that we are on the leading edge of this industry in particular, to make sure that our member companies are set up for success, not just with exports, but also with the standards, making sure that the facilities are operating with their products all over the world, because we are seeing so much more of a push for domestic manufacturing bases to be the focus of government policy. We can move on to the next slide. So how are we defining advanced manufacturing systems for this grant in particular? we are defining that as products and systems that use productivity and quality, reduce energy use, and enable manufacturers to improve manufacturing and supply chain resiliency. You know, we've been hearing a lot about supply chains recently, especially with the COVID-19 pandemic, how that impacted supply chains with all of the trade and tariff disagreements that are going on all over the world. Companies are so focused on their supply chains, on trying to make sure that they have resilient supply chains, to make sure that they have the product that they need. You know, there have been so many transportation issues. They're really trying to make sure that we can make this as efficient as possible and plan redundancy and resiliencies in the supply chain and in the manufacturing world. So this is where advanced manufacturing really comes into play, because if you can improve your manufacturing systems, then you can plan better for your supply chain resiliency. This is very commonly referred to as Industry 4.0 and smart manufacturing. I believe we also go along with the NIST definition of smart manufacturing. And some examples of the products that we're looking at are relays, programmable logic controllers, human-machine interfaces, motor controllers, robots, terminal blocks, industrial control panels, and the software used to gather data and operate the systems. So this is just an initial look at how we tried to define advanced manufacturing systems as we were looking at this grant and applying for it. You know, this is something that we're really looking for member input on as to how we can best help members, you know, define this space and really get into the technical standards that are needed for this area. We can go on to the next slide. So we have a huge focus on standards with this grant. We know how important standards are. NEMA, as a standards development organization, there are many people online here who are involved in this, who are really the leading experts in standards development work. But like I said earlier, that sometimes it's difficult to see, especially for a small and medium-sized business, to see how standards can really impact their bottom line, can really help them moving forward, because, you know, you aren't going to see the benefit from standards possibly right in the next quarter, which is the time frame that so many people are looking at. So we really want to use the resources that we're getting with this grant to help companies see how standards can help them moving forward, especially with advanced manufacturing. And we've also seen recently that standards are increasingly developed with a reduced input from US experts. So we, NEMA, are a standards development organization. We're also looking a lot at IEC, the International Electrotechnical Committee, and ISO. And we took a look at a lot of the technical committees, the TCs within the IEC with the advanced manufacturing space, and found that the US only holds 3 of 30 key positions within those TCs, so secretariat or chair. And we're very concerned at that level of participation. You know, countries like China and Germany have really pushed to take more of a leadership role in these standards. And if the US companies are not on the forefront of helping to develop these standards, then we're really going to be left behind, especially because this space keeps expanding. You know, we keep adding more standards, adding more technical committees every year. And so if we aren't keeping up with this pace, especially in a burgeoning product sector, then we're going to be left behind. So that was why we had such a focus on standards here. You know, sometimes there can be unexpected changes in standards that can require manufacturers to retool, redesign, or remove innovative features. If you are designing and then the standard goes another direction, then that can cause issues for a company. And the last thing that we want to see is the US not be able to break into a market because the standards that the US companies have been using differ greatly from the standards that have been developed, you know, with more of a European focus with the IEC. And we also wanted to make sure with the focus on advanced manufacturing, because these are all systems. You don't just put one advanced manufacturing product into a factory and then all of a sudden it's all advanced manufacturing capable. These are whole systems. So compatibility is so important for these systems, maybe one of the most important features. So that's why we got so focused on advanced manufacturing standards, because if there are any compatibility issues, are any design issues, then that can cause a huge headache for manufacturers down the line. We can move on to the next slide. So per the MDCP guidelines, we decided to focus on 4 target markets. So we chose India, Indonesia, Mexico, and Turkey. Our estimate is that there's a combined market size for advanced manufacturing products of about $19.5 billion USD at this time. But we do expect that to increase and increase fairly rapidly. These are all referred to often as newly industrialized countries. And like I said, there's so much of a focus, especially in these countries. They have several government initiatives to really boost their domestic manufacturing, to provide direct investment to the manufacturing ecosystem that they have in these countries. India is a huge economy. We want to be able to help our members break in there and really be involved in the advanced manufacturing segment in that economy. Indonesia is one of the biggest, Asia Pacific economies outside of China, and we've already seen, especially with some of the U.S. government policies toward China, some of the trade policies, the tariff policies, we've already seen a lot of manufacturing moving to Indonesia. So that was why we wanted to focus there. Mexico is obviously a huge trading partner for the U.S., and our focus there is that there's a lot of talk of reshoring, but we also like to frame that in the perspective of right-shoring. So that can be a closer economy, an economy that we have closer trade ties to, that has closer labor and environmental standards to the US. And so obviously Mexico, we have a very robust trade agreement with, and is a very close trading partner. So we want to ensure that that advanced manufacturing market is very compatible with what US companies are making. Turkey as well is another country that is doing a ton of domestic investment to try to boost their domestic manufacturing industry. They're investing several $1 billion, I believe, a year to increase their domestic manufacturing capabilities. So again, we want to be involved in that conversation, be involved in the standards development process there. We can move on to the next slide. So going back to the grants and how we're going to measure performance. We are talking a lot about exports, so we want to increase the long-term exports of advanced manufacturing systems and products to these target markets. We also want to launch the Advanced Manufacturing Council. This will really give us a way to drive the conversation around these standards, talk to more of the business leaders in our member companies, and figure out where the standards and the business side of our companies intersect. We can create standards all day long, but they need to be relevant. They need to be strategic at this point in time. So that Advanced Manufacturing Council is really going to help us provide feedback into this loop. Again, we want to train new participants for international standards development. I've already said it, but I'll say it again. It is so important for us to have a seat at the table. And what we're seeing is, this can be such a niche process, and it takes a lot of knowledge of the products, a lot of knowledge of the standards process to be able to be effectively involved in this. And we're concerned, some of the people that we are representing us at these meetings, might be towards the end of their careers, and we want to make sure that we have a deeper bench of who's going to represent U.S. interests at these at these international standards development conversations. So that is something that is a real focus of this grant. And again, increasing participation in standards development, including US tags and IEC TCs. You know, NEMA is an international standards development organization. Our standards are international. We do follow the WTO technical barriers to trade guidelines to that qualifies us as an international standards association. So it's so important that we get everybody involved on all levels here so that everything is really syncing up. And I believe that that's my last slide. We can move on. And if there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Madeline, I'm not seeing any questions via the chat, and I don't see any hands raised, but thank you so much for this presentation and giving us a better sense of what the NEMA MDCP program is intended to cover. And I think over the next, couple of days, we look forward to hearing from our members on, if there's anything else that they think we should be focused on. So I see Tim Duffy has his hands up. Mr. Duffy.
It's just a question on a recent announcement that I had seen, which, since international standardizations is a major aspect of this work, the recent announcement indicated that there's from the EU, a new standardization strategy aims to put the EU first. And, they're looking at some of that. Obviously, we in this MDCP grant are looking at focusing on a couple of different countries relative to advanced manufacturing and India, Indonesia, Mexico, and Turkey. But is I guess this grant and some of the concerns able to address and potentially counter some of that EU activity, or is that potentially something that is an activity that we may want to pursue with the ITA for the future activity?
That's a really great point, Tim. I saw that announcement as well. And like I was saying earlier, there is such a focus to make products domestically, be that in the US or the EU or the countries that we're targeting here. And so this grant can help us in that space because these are international standards. They're IEC, ISO standards that we are focusing on. And this is really going to help us get involved in making sure that US companies have access to establishing the manufacturing bases in all of these countries. That's one of the reasons why we focus on advanced manufacturing systems, because they have to make them somehow. They're not just they have to have some sort of equipment there, right? So this absolutely can help us with the EU. There could be more of a focus. This is a huge issue that is going to keep developing. So thank you for bringing that up, Tim.
Yeah, and I'll just add to that, Madeline. I think a lot of countries and regions around the world have their own standardization strategy. The United States does, China does. And if we are able to increase our technical experts and engagement in the international standards arena, that in and of itself is going to help us to counter any kind of not invented here mentality, because we all know that if you're not at the table in standards, you're on the menu. So let's make sure that we've got a seat and plenty of them at the table. Let's take one more question. Bruce Desmond.
Yep. Hi, thank you. Yeah, just a quick one. Earlier in the presentation, Madeline, if I understood it right, you made a reference that there was a planned trade mission to Singapore and Japan, or at least, but at the same time, we're referencing India, Indonesia, and Mexico and Turkey as the target countries. Can you just explain, is like the trade mission to Singapore or Japan meant to kind of be a gateway to Indonesia? Can you just explain that analogy?
Yeah, Bruce, I'm so glad you brought this up to clarify. Perhaps I misspoke. The trade mission that we're in early stages of planning is to Indonesia, Singapore, and Japan. So the focus is Indonesia. And then since, just geographically, those locations are all so close to each other, we're doing some add-ons for the Indonesia trade mission to Singapore and Japan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Madeline, for this great presentation. It is now my honor to introduce Ann Driscoll, who will be providing us with some keynote remarks. Ann is the Acting Assistant Secretary of Commerce for Industry and Analysis, and has also served as the Principal Deputy Assistant for Industry and Analysis. In these positions, she oversees a broad portfolio of programs aimed at increasing the global competitiveness of U.S. manufacturers and service providers. And thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And I think we're all looking forward to hearing your remarks.
Thank you very much, Megan. And I was enjoying the conversation I was just hearing, and the comment you made about if you're not at the table, you're on the menu. And I'm like, I'm going to remember that one. I thought that was a great statement. I would say, the MDCP is a really important tool, right? It's one tool that we can use to address the issues of international competition. There are a lot of tools out there, and well, there are a lot of tools we should be using, and I think as we look towards the activities of the U.S. government on supply chain, on domestic manufacturing, also increasingly there is an increasing awareness that standards has to be part of that package, and then as part of our efforts in really helping develop U.S. industry, we have to be, if we make it here, we have to be able to sell it everywhere, and that really is an important theme within the Commerce Department, within ITA, that a message that we're spreading. If we're going to make it here, we have to be able to sell it everywhere, and efforts like such as this one is one thing we can do to make sure that we can sell it everywhere. I want to really start this conversation by really congratulating NEMA for receiving the 2021 Market Development Cooperative Programs. It is a competitive process, and we commend you for putting together a really strong proposal that we could consider. Through this award, NEMA and ITA will partner with U.S. companies to increase the exports of advanced manufacturing system, and as part of that, training experts to lead the related technical committees and get involved in the standards work overseas. ITA and NEMA have had a very long, productive relationship. And in fact, in the context of the MDCP, NEMA has received more MDCP awards than any other organizations in the program's history. So there's the history of success here, right? They've come back for more, which is a good pat on the back that this program has actually been successful and jointly successful since we're doing it again, and we're happy to do it again. Our longstanding collaboration has helped promote U.S. exports in international markets and help remove, reduce, and prevent trade barriers for NEMA members. I am a really big fan of the MDCP. I was super pleased that we were able to bring it back to ITA as part of our toolkit after a hiatus of a couple of years. The MDCP really helps us facilitate a more strategic relationship between ITA and its partners. Because it's a multi-year program, it helps us move beyond one-off events and unconnected interactions by really focusing our joint attention on a common goal over a sustained period of time. And so there's a lot of power in that, in the U.S. government and industry working together on a sustained issue over a sustained period of time. So again, congratulations once again, and we really look forward to working with you on this, on the MDCP grant. Work like this is really important as we seek to support the vital role that manufacturing plays in the U.S. economy, and the Biden-Harris administration Build Back Better agenda. The goals of this particular MDC are critically important to enabling the use of digital technology in the manufacturing sector. Advanced manufacturing, as you all know, can be difficult to define precisely, but there's no disputing its importance. I think we'd all agree that advanced manufacturing technologies enhance automation and operating efficiencies, and can strengthen supply chain management and provide robust protections for digital systems and data flows. Even before COVID, more than half the manufacturing leaders were considering or investing in advanced manufacturing technologies. And given supply chain stresses, such innovations are even more urgent, as I'm sure this group knows very well. artificial intelligence and the Internet of Things are really making an impact in factories. Techniques like predictive maintenance that reduces downtime for machines or fleet management systems that maximize productivity of autonomous mobile robots continue to really fundamentally change the global manufacturing ecosystems. And improvements in sensor technology and declining costs have really enabled additional applications to be developed. Since I'm from the International Trade Administration, I would be remiss if I didn't mention the impressive trade figures for advanced manufacturing equipment and systems. Before COVID-19, advanced manufacturing equipment accounted for $1.1 trillion of global trade, including $106 billion in US exports. While the US is a leading supplier of advanced manufacturing technologies and products, including for industrial automation equipment and industrial supply chain components, digital services and additive manufacturing, global competition is really fierce and growing. US manufacturers face a lot of pressures from China, as well as from longstanding partners in the EU, Japan, Singapore, and Korea. At the same time, rapidly advancing manufacturing sectors in newly industrializing economies like Indonesia, Malaysia, Poland, Vietnam, Czech Republic, Thailand, and others provide ripe opportunities for US collaboration to enable fair, healthy, and competitive trading environments. These are key markets for US exporters, and this is reflected in NEMA's MDCP award, which targets India, Indonesia, Mexico, and Turkey. And you'll hear from our colleagues from our embassies later on in this conversation, in today's summit. As advanced manufacturing technologies expand through the broader manufacturing sectors, there's unique challenges that have emerged at really the intersection of machinery and digital technology, with each new innovation comes novel workforce, equipment, and data issues that many businesses, particularly small and medium-sized businesses, are going to have to face, and some are not well equipped to tackle these challenges. Data and software issues are now machinery issues, and machinery advances increase, and advances in machineries increase demand that businesses reskill their workforce. At the same time, manufacturers face daunting legal and technical barriers to trade, and it must work hard and fast to develop standards that underpin a fair, safe trading ecosystem. And I'll touch on a couple of these challenges in a little bit more depth. One is data, right? An increasing complex issue in the international trading environment is data, and how technology, services, and goods enable it are regulated. Data localization can jeopardize the sale of digital services and goods alike. And as digital issues have really become manufacturing issues, the manufacturer's competitiveness increasingly hinges on its ability to incorporate digital technology into production processes and process. The United States, together with nations that share our values, has a strong interest in preserving global cooperation on privacy protections, enabling international data flows, and leading on emerging technology policy. It's really important that we develop and adopt similar regulatory principles, such as those adopted by consensus at the OECD, that embrace and shape innovation in a manner consistent with our shared democratic values. We're focusing on global collaboration in the digital space as a means to enrich innovation, bolster international research and relationships, and promote the development and deployment of digital technologies such as AI. We must ensure that regulatory differences do not create barriers to cross-border data flows or hamper economic activities, since the digital economy now really does encompass all facets of manufacturing. Collaborating on industry-driven standards is really critical to ensuring progress, innovation, and fair competition in advanced manufacturing equipment and systems, as you know very well. Standards plays a critically important role in supporting the manufacturing sector and the digital economy more broadly, especially for emerging technologies. Some countries, however, are developing unique national standards instead of embracing internationally relevant standards, which really will threaten innovation, increase costs for U.S. businesses, and impede companies' abilities to compete in foreign markets. So this is a really important issue that we're dealing with here. I mean, this is not just bad for business, but any country that develops a unique standard is going to attract less business and investment and may lose the ability to tap into technical expertise of industry, academia, and other stakeholders. It is really important that we discourage idiosyncratic standards and instead promote a collaborative, industry-driven international approach, including through leadership and international standards bodies. Shaping those standards will be especially crucial for U.S. industry as manufacturers integrate new technologies. So in this regard, I can't overstate the importance of the work that NEMA is doing in this area and the significance of this partnership with the NBCP, which really does explicitly aim to advance U.S. participation in international standards development. The last challenge I'll highlight, though there are many more, relates to the manufacturing workforce. As factories become more advanced, so too do the technical skills required on the factory floor. While technology may displace some jobs, the same innovations are creating high-skilled jobs that require technical training. So successful production systems that enable advanced manufacturing rely heavily on a workforce that is equipped with the knowledge and skills necessary to adapt to advances on the factory floor. And developing that advanced manufacturing workforce is a daunting task, equally in the United States, where skilled gap is a frequent topic of conversation. Our workforce here is aging, and too few people out of see manufacturing as a promising area in which to pursue a career. But in the specific area of standards and international through programs like what NEMA is doing in the NBCP Awards, we're focusing training on that next generation of talent on standards, where we're taking important steps towards developing the workforce needed to ensure that U.S. manufacturing remains competitive. This is really an important step to allow us to build back better. From data flows to standards development to workforce development, the private sector and the U.S. government really does need to work together to tackle the thorniest problems of advanced manufacturing. Small and medium-sized businesses really are the backbone of the U.S. manufacturing sector and a very complex supply chain. And supply chains are an area that we're spending a lot of time on these days. Companies around the world, including large multinationals, rely on small companies for their cutting-edge equipment and technologies. But these firms, particularly the smaller and minority-owned firms, face unique pressures. And at ITA, we're seeking to provide these companies with tools and visibility to compete in the global marketplace, including through our global diversity export initiatives and emphasis on diverse representation on federal advisory committees. This is just a small part of the Biden-Harris administration's work to ensure a robust and equitable economic recovery and to invest domestically to better compete globally. President Biden's trade agenda is supporting our nation's economic recovery by helping entrepreneurs and businesses, large and small, put Americans to work, building world-class products for export to foreign markets. The president recognizes that trade policy must protect and empower workers, drive wage growth, and create better economic outcomes for all Americans. And I'm really proud that at ITA, we are an integral part of the president's trade agenda and want to highlight briefly some of the work we're doing on the Build Back Better U.S. manufacturing agenda. One of our top priorities at ITA is building more robust supply chains. Building strong supply chains can only happen when companies operate under clear rules that lack unnecessary or divergent standards. And ensuring resilience and agility demands communication and trust among firms along the supply chain, supported by access to data. The government can play a unique role in solving coordination challenges and serving as a trusted source of data. This role is especially important during critical supply chain shortages, when downstream firms can overorder or stockpile inventory and upstream firms do not fulfill orders due to a lack of trust in demand, leading to delays, price increases, uncertainty, and further shortages. The Department of Commerce is working to improve data collection across the board and has recently released results of a voluntary survey of industry participants that was designed to diagnose choke points and provide data to help firms adjust production processes during supply chain shortages. And we're spending a lot of time trying to understand how to do this better and what data we need to do this better. In addition, to address supply chain, to address shocks to global supply chains stemming from the COVID-19 pandemic, we've been working with governments in Southeast Asia and elsewhere to keep critical supply chains online, while also prioritizing worker health and safety in those nations. So this has been an all across U.S. government effort. In addition, the Biden-Harris administration stood up a microelectronics early alert system for COVID-related shutdowns. This system allows us to detect potential disruptions earlier and mitigate them faster in coordination with our trading partners. Another manufacturing priority for ITA is promoting innovative clean tech solutions as part of the administration's commitment to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and improving climate resilience. Climate considerations also often bring to mind energy, agriculture, transportation sector. But we know that manufacturing itself is responsible for about 23% of global emissions. So to reduce or eliminate those emissions, is the manufacturing sector, we need to innovate and implement advanced manufacturing technologies that reduce greenhouse gas, enhance efficiency, and reduce waste. So the advanced manufacturing systems you all produce are really key to meeting those climate goals. So to that end, the ITA has launched a clean tech export and promotion strategy that will help us help companies in this space a lot better and empower and amplify U.S. clean tech innovations. More broadly, we will work with other countries to pursue greater sustainability, raise climate ambition, global climate ambition, and lead on clean tech development and deployment. And again, NEMA's MDCP grant is consistent with those goals, as the MDCP team works to organize trade missions to increase exports of advanced manufacturing systems that, among other goals, improve sustainability in manufacturing. You know, the MDCP program is really an incredibly valuable partnership, and it's one of our most successful export assistance programs. We estimate that it produces over $334 in exports for every dollar of ITA funding. So the return on investment here is really pretty significant. But beyond MDCP, the Department of Commerce has several other programs focused on supporting U.S. manufacturing teams, including a Manufacturing USA, the Manufacturing Extension Program, and the National Network of Manufacturing Innovation. These are all private public partnerships that provide U.S. companies with financial support, R&D support, and export promotion resources to do what they do best, which is make things that people want. I know I speak for the entire team across the Commerce Department, the folks on this call, the folks participating in the summit, as well as the broader U.S. Department of Commerce, U.S. Department of Commerce employees to say, you know, we really look forward to a continued partnership in the mutual pursuit of progress for the U.S. manufacturing industry. Thank you very much, and I wish you all a very productive summit.
And thank you so much for joining us. I think your comments were so insightful about some of the challenges of our industry, especially when it comes to international trade. And NEMA is excited to be partnering with ITA, and we look forward to the next 3 years of work that we have to do for this MDCP award. So thank you very much, and have a wonderful day, Anne.
Thank you very much. It's a joy to be here.
Okay, so now I think we're going to take a short break. But as we do that, I'd like to encourage everybody to go to slido.com and type in our event code. I do have one question open, but also feel free to use Slido to enter Q&A for the next session, which will feature Josh Holland from Flex and Jack Nalick from Phoenix Contact, where we'll learn more about what U.S. industry thinks is the definition of advanced manufacturing, and how this MDCP award might help industry writ large. So we'll see everybody at 11 o'clock. You're welcome to stay on the Teams meeting and have some informal discussion, or just stretch your legs and grab a cup of coffee.